Welcome to the Nicole Osei Report. I'm Nicole Osei, and today we're going to be talking about the Tesla brand, from a massive recall to lagging sales, plummeting stocks, and its Tesla CEO, Elon Musk. And joining me today is a man who needs no introduction when it comes to the world of cars, Jerry Reynolds of the Car Pro Show. How are you doing, Jerry? Welcome.
Thank you, Nicole. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. And so I want to get started with, because there's a lot to unpack here. So I thought it's important to talk about the latest and then work our way back. So we're going to talk
Yes.
about the recall. So the US safety regulations recalled practically all of the Cybertrucks. I think there's about 46,000 of them.
Right.
And they're warning that the exterior panel on the left and right of the windshield can actually detach while driving. I wanted to ask you, how serious of an issue is that when it comes to a car that's built like the Cybertruck?
Yeah, it's a very unusual vehicle to say the least. It's not really a risk for the person driving the Cybertruck, but for the cars behind it when these things happen, it's causing all kinds of problems, wrecks and all kinds of things because people are swerving to miss these parts that are falling off of it. We've seen this before. This is nothing that's new to the auto industry, or it's just new to Tesla. And Tesla's in the spotlight right now. Let's face it. So when something like this happens, it's news. Now, most Tesla recalls are handled what we call over the air, OTA. And that means that Tesla can send a signal to the car to do a recall. This one is more physical, so they're going to have to take it to one of the service centers that are all around the country to get this thing fixed. It looks like a pretty simple thing, looks like a fastener that was an issue that they used, but people, it's still, any recall is a inconvenience to say the least.
And speaking of that fastener, and this may be something that is used typically on a car, I'm not sure. I wanted to get your opinion on that. When I read that was causing the issue, I mean, this is not an inexpensive car. It's around $80,000. Is that something that should be surprising to a consumer that they're using that type of adhesive that I believe the report said that it's vulnerable to environmental factors and that's why it's detaching? Again, because this is an almost $80,000 car.
Yeah, and I see it with all the brands that are that much and more, things similar to this, but, you know, they should have probably done a little more homework when they were engineering that truck. It looked to me like at the time they were rushing it to market. And so, you find out those things in testing. And I don't know that Tesla is testing as well as some of the legacy car companies that have been around for many, many years that do millions of miles worth of testing. That's harder to do with any electric vehicle because of the range of them. You've got to, whatever you're doing, if you're testing, you got to stop and charge it up and then start testing again. I think they could have done a better job doing due diligence on things like this happening.
And you had mentioned like it possibly have been rushed to market because this is the eighth recall on this Cybertruck, and I was reading that they just started making deliveries over a year ago. So if I'm a consumer, and let's say I was considering that, that's something that I think that's a huge red flag.
Well, I think there was a time when it was, but recalls have gotten so commonplace with cars now. I mean, there's
That's true.
millions of cars on the road right this minute that have recalls that need to be fixed. Some of them are very serious. I mean, there's still millions, 6 million, as a matter of fact, cars that have faulty airbags. That's a situation that can actually kill you, and people aren't taking them in. I call it recall apathy. People just think. I've had people say to me, "Well, I'm going to wait till I get a couple of more and then take it in and get all the recalls done at once." These are safety recalls. They're not flaws in the car. These are things that can cause harm and damage. People need to take them more seriously. But I see it with every brand. I mean, there's no correlation between long term reliability and short term recalls. There's just not. So, it's distressing. It can be frustrating, but recalls are there. And I think the government is doing a better job today looking for things than they used to. And I think that's another issue on why we're seeing so many recalls, including this Tesla recall.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point you mentioned because it's a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, the government is doing a better job at catching things to make sure that consumers are safer. On the other hand, we know, especially in the news business, when people hear something too much, they start to get, as you said, apathetic to it.
Yes, no
So,
question about it.
yeah, is there, but there's really no middle ground to that, is there? Because you have to alert the public when something's wrong with the car, when there's an issue.
Yeah, you sure want them to. And then the individual has got to make a decision on whether they want to take it in and get it fixed. I don't think that a lot of people realize that recalls are always 100% free. There's no charge for parts or labor with a recall. And I've got a newsletter that goes out every Friday. It goes out to over 50,000 people. And I put the latest recalls in there. I actually work closely with NHTSA. They come to me to get the word out on certain things. So I put the recalls in there so that people know about it quickly and they can actually call their dealer and get on a list so that when they know the dealer knows how to fix it and they get the parts, they can call them and they can be one of the first. The bad side of recalls is the communication between the manufacturers and the dealerships. I owned car dealerships for a lot of years, over 30 years. We found out about recalls from the news, from people like you.
Really?
Yeah, we never got anything on it. We had to find out. It was either news or a customer calling saying they saw this somewhere. So the manufacturers have to get and do a better job of communicating with the dealers and saying, okay, we've got a recall. We don't know how to fix it yet. We're working on it right now. We're going to let you know as soon as we know how to fix it. And once that happens, then the dealer can communicate with their customer and try to put their mind a little bit at ease on if it's something that really needs to be fixed quickly or if it's something they can wait on.
So, in the world of electronic trucks, how does the Cybertruck stack up? Because we know we've got Rivian, I believe Ford has one, Chevy or GMC. How does the Tesla Cybertruck rate in terms of those other electronic trucks that have come out?
A lot of people love the Cybertruck, but that's true too of people that own the Ford Lightning. I've tested the Lightning. In fact, I've reviewed it twice through the years. I've never reviewed the Cybertruck. Tesla doesn't send review vehicles to Texas, believe it or not. Uh, and that's because they cannot sell direct in Texas. So I haven't had a shot at a Cybertruck, but I talked to a lot of people. I've got a huge audience in California. They love the truck. They like the looks of it. They do all kinds of things to customize them, and wrapping them has gotten to be a big deal because they all come in the same color. They look exactly the same. So there's wraps out there to make them different colors, and people are doing that. People that have them love them. But that's true too of the other electric trucks. People who love electric vehicles really seem to love their vehicles. Now, people get wrapped up and they think they want an electric until they get one. They find out it doesn't fit their lifestyle. That's why there's so many used electrics on the market, and that's why electric car prices used have plummeted.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into that because there have been some people that have said that you can really tell the state of a company by like what the resale market is on a car. Is that true? And I had read that the electronic cars are plummeting on the resale market, and specifically Teslas.
Well, they're all taking a really hard hit. Tesla was the first to come out with electric cars, in any kind of mass way. And yeah, they've been hurt, but it's true of the entire electric market. Uh, People got all jazzed up about them. I think the government pushed them really, really hard a few years ago. Automakers have wasted billions of dollars developing them and trying to sell them. The incentives on new ones right now are huge. Those are the kind of things that tank the used car market on a car. Now,
Mm.
all electrics are down, but the used car market as a whole, if you take the electrics out, is actually very high and holding its value much better than it has since before COVID. So it's specific to the electric car market. I just think there's so many of them out there that anytime you get an excess of one thing, markets tank. That's just the law of supply and demand. And
True.
they continue to just go down and down and down. I don't know how cheap they can get. If you look at Hertz, who jumped in and was going to put 1 million electric cars into their rental
I
fleet.
remember that.
Yeah, big mistake. Cost them the bankruptcy. It's cost them millions, if not billions of dollars. You can go to Hertz.com and get an electric car right now for around $10,000. And that is
Wow.
amazing to me.
Wow. $10,000. I mean, who knew? When
Yeah.
they first came out, they were very expensive, and now
Oh,
they're,
and
from
new
10.
they still are, but the incentives and things. I mean, I personally just leased an electric BMW, and the incentives on it were irresistible. I mean, the deal you can get on one on a 80, $90,000 car, especially if if you pick the right one. But I'm telling my listeners, don't buy electric, lease it. And if
Mm.
leasing doesn't fit for you, then don't get one because when you lease, at the end of the lease, it doesn't matter what the market's done. You're just going to walk away from it anyway. So as long as you can stay within those miles, and I leased the one that I got, and I'll walk away from it in 3 years. There's no chance I'll buy this car because of what it's going to be worth, most likely 3 years from now. But leasing takes the risk out of the equation completely.
And you mentioned some incentives. Can you talk about what some of those are for people that are in the EV market?
Oh yeah, there's big cash back for those people who do decide to go ahead and purchase the leases, offer super low interest rates and big incentives to get that monthly payment down. If you look at what you can lease, let's just throw $100,000 car out there. If you look at a lease on that car with virtually no money down, maybe the taxes, you got $1,000 payment on a lease on an electric. But if you look at $100,000 gas car and lease it with the same down payment, that monthly payment is almost double what it is on the electric car, which is why I leased a BMW instead of buying it.
Sound advice. Now, this is the latest, the recall that we're mentioning on the Tesla Cybertruck. It's the latest in a series of setbacks for Tesla. And we've seen that. So now we've got to talk about the CEO, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
We've seen that since he has joined President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency as kind of a senior advisor and over DOGE and some of the haphazard cuts. They've slashed people, then they've brought them back after firing them. And we've seen that since that, his popularity has taken a tumble. It's
Yes.
plummeted. And the AP's reporting that Tesla stock dropped about 42% this year alone. We've seen violence break out at some of the Tesla dealerships. There was vandalism. I believe someone was arrested. We're talking Molotov cocktails,
Yeah.
uh, cars being shot out, burned, and we don't condone political violence anywhere. And we're not even, we don't know what the impetus for that was, but I can imagine it has direct tie to what Musk has been doing. If you're a shareholder of the company and you're seeing that his actions are starting to make the shares tumble, what are your concern? What are those conversations like in the shareholders meeting?
You got to think that they wish that he hadn't gotten involved. And I think it's a business decision that he probably made. Was it a mistake? Does he wish he could take it back? I don't know. He's a very smart man. And what I see, Nicole, is Yeah, there's a lot of people pushing back against what he's doing, but the other side of it is there are people coming to his rescue. I mean, for someone to think that they can vandalize a Tesla car or a dealership and hurt Elon, they're really in for a surprise because you know Tesla's one of the cool things about Teslas that I've always been intrigued with is something called Sentry mode, which is if an owner leaves the car and sets Sentry mode, there's 7 cameras around that car that start rolling and it records everything. If you're going to vandalize someone's Tesla, you don't know that person, they haven't done anything to you personally, you know, there's a good chance that you're going to get charged with a very serious crime. Now, if I'm sitting on the board of Tesla, darn right, I wish Elon would keep his mouth shut. But it's been that way forever. They've always wanted him to keep his mouth shut. He's not that kind of guy. He's going to do what he feels like he's led to do for whatever reason. But the thing people need to understand is, you know, wishing Tesla harm is dangerous to the entire country. They employ 100,000 people. They make one of the most American cars on the road today. And Elon personally only owns 12.8% of the stock of Tesla. So they're hurting a whole lot of other people instead of Elon. Over 87% of the stockholders are not Elon Musk. So people really need to understand what they're doing when they try to do something like this. If I was on the board, I'd probably be upset too. But if you look at what he's done for the company, you can make the case either way.
And I was also wondering, we saw a few weeks ago, we saw President Trump and Musk on the White House lawn, and Trump was showcasing the Tesla, imploring people to go out and buy the Tesla. And when I saw that, one of the things, I mean, I had many, you know, things that were going through my mind, but one of the things that stuck out to me was, who is the Tesla consumer? Because, if Trump is talking to, let's say he's talking to his base, he spent years railing on EVs. So I don't think they're going to be keen to go out and buy one. And the people that may have bought it, maybe some of them are upset with what Musk is doing right now in terms of government. So who is their consumer?
It's usually someone who is very conscious of the environment and are concerned about pollution and emissions that come out of fuel cars. Some of them, my California market, for instance, so many of those are looking at electrics because of the additional rebates. You get $7,500 from the government if an electric car makes, if it meets certain criteria, but California has got incentives that are almost equal to that. But I hear from people who want electrics because they can drive in the HOV lanes there. So it's really a mixed bag of people who buy electrics. And Tesla was so successful for so long, but they also didn't have any competition. And then the other automakers are looking at them going, wait a minute, we can we can be competition to them, but they got a really late start. And then everything changed and they all started coming with electrics. And the market was much smaller, I think, than anybody thought it was. I said from the very beginning, we would end up at about 10% electrics at the most on the road. Last year, we were at 8.9%. This year, I think we finish up probably less than that. So probably somewhere between 7.5 and 8% of electrics are going to be, that's going to be the market share. And I hope that people who want one and that their lifestyle fits and they really want one, get one. That's what I did. But this is not an everyday car for me, Nicole. This is more of a third car for me. So I'm not driving it every day. But I got a charger in my garage. I It's got now probably 500 miles on it. I've charged it twice. I can charge it when I go to bed. I can unplug it the next morning. I'm never going to see a gas station. There are advantages to them, but it's got to be right for you. And I don't think people always think it through.
So, in the world of EVs, how does Tesla, the original Tesla, stack up? Because that used to, for years, that was the most popular one that we saw. And again, that was before there was more competition. But I
Yes.
feel like I still see more of those on the roads than any other EV.
Oh, they've got a full 50% of the EV market still, even with all the competition that's out there. But because people that bought the early ones tend to buy them again. They really like them. And they love everything about the dash, and they're cool. It's a status symbol, if you will. Might not be a good one right this minute, but it is a status symbol no matter how you look at it. So, they're doing very well, actually. The company's great. Yeah, their stock is down right now. Will that last? I don't know. We'll see. All the stocks are down and have gone down lately. They've gone down more than most. Can they come back? I think they probably can.
And that was going to lead to my last question, just to wrap up. Do you think that Tesla, the brand, can bounce back from this? Because, Musk he's the face of the brand, and he is deeply unpopular right now because of what he's been doing in government and some of the things he's been saying on X. What do you think? Where do you see this company in the next 5 years?
I think they'll be fine. I would not be afraid to have Tesla stock right now, personally. I think that the other car companies that jumped in so hard, there were whole brands of cars that said we're going to go all electric by 2025. Nobody has, and they put it off, and now they're all reversing themselves. So, although there was a lot of competition a couple of years ago, there's a lot of competition today. That competition's probably going to fade out, and it's going to leave Tesla with the lion's share of the market. And I think they'll probably take advantage of that with some new product that's coming out. The Cybertruck, when it first came out, I mean, people were waiting for years for a Cybertruck. They were bringing, I watched them at the auction, bringing twice what the window sticker was. Some of them bringing well over $200,000 that stickered for less than half of that. It was a rage, if you will. They've calmed down now. They've settled down. People are being able to get them. But I think Tesla will end up still being the huge player in electrics. And I think the other car companies are going to continue to back off and go back to what they're good at, which is hybrids and electrics. I really think plug-in hybrids are a great bridge to people who are thinking they may want to go hybrid someday. But a plug-in hybrid, to me, is exactly the right step if you want to kind of transition yourself from gas to electric eventually. But don't rush it. It's a bad decision to rush getting into an electric if you haven't really done your homework.
Sage advice from the man himself, Jerry Reynolds. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to hear from all of you. What are your thoughts about what's going on with Tesla right now? Would you buy a Tesla? And what are your thoughts on Musk's relationship to the lagging sales, the protests that we're seeing, and all of that? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, news, politics, and current trends, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.